Hello, welcome, and thank you to everyone for joining us this afternoon for CertMatters.Live Online 2021. My name is Andrew Griggs. I am the COO at Prodigy Learning and your compere for this webinar. As we begin this event, I would like to acknowledge the Gadigal people that are the traditional custodians of the land on which our Sydney office is located. I would also like to pay my respects to the elders, both past, present and emerging, and extend that respect to other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders who are present here today. CertMatters has quickly grown to become a personal highlight of the year, and it is a fantastic chance for us all at Prodigy Learning to meet, collaborate and celebrate with our customers, partners and students. We have a fantastic session lined up for you this afternoon, and I can't wait to get started. Before I introduce our speakers, I would like to mention a few key points. CertMatters.Live Online is running all the way through to the end of June. Coming up, we have further great sessions planned where you can hear from experts such as Anthony Salcito, Vice President for Worldwide Education at Microsoft, who will talk to us about transforming education through emerging technologies. That session takes place next week on the 9th of June. One not to miss is our closing keynote on reimagining the future of assessment with Jude Cosgrove, CEO of the Educational Research Centre, a statutory agency of the Department of Education in Ireland, and also Graham Hudson, Special Advisor to Assessment Professionals internationally and board member of the E-Assessment Association. In this webinar, they will discuss how technologies can progress the future of assessment towards being more authentic, accessible, appropriately automated, continuous, and secure. To attend live or to view on demand, simply sign up at www.CertMatters.com and register for these fantastic free sessions. For the first time in CertMatters history, during this 2021 webinar series, we are offering free Microsoft certifications for educators. These certifications cover the Microsoft Certified Educator, Microsoft Office Specialist, Microsoft Technology Associate, and the very latest Microsoft Certified Fundamentals certification. Sign up for these free certifications via www.CertMatters.com and by clicking on the Testing Lab menu option. They are completely free and are available on a first-come, first-served basis. The certifications are sat remotely using the exams from home technology, and there are no limits per educator. And a huge thanks to our headline sponsor, Microsoft, and all event partners and speakers. We are very grateful for all their support in making this CertMatters our largest online series yet. You will have a chance to hear from all of these across the coming weeks. Now for the main event, but before we get started with this afternoon's session on building a skilled Australian workforce for a strong economic recovery, I have a number of housekeeping points. Firstly, this session is recorded and can be found later today online at www.CertMatters.com. We will be hosting live Q&A with our guests, so please pose questions in the Q&A window on your screen, and we will try to get through as many as possible in the time that we have. We have three fantastic speakers this afternoon and three of the most respected individuals in their fields presenting for us today. First up, we are honoured to have Frank Annese join us to discuss how he and his colleagues at TAFE South Australia have worked to embed industry certifications to their IT qualifications. There will be time for Q&A, as I mentioned, at the end for all three sessions, so don't forget to post your questions. Following Frank, we have Dr. Bahareh Nakisa, Course Director of Applied AI at Deakin University, who will talk about her recent work to embed Azure Cloud teaching, learning and certification into degree programs over the past few months. Our final speaker is Sally Browner, CEO of Goanna Education, who will offer a slightly different view on the value of certifications in a vocational setting. On the screen, you can find the Twitter handles of our guests, as well as ourselves at Prodigy Learning. Please continue the conversation on Twitter and don't forget to add #CMLive21 when tweeting. You can also connect with us on LinkedIn via our Prodigy Learning account, along with our guests and all of Team Prodigy. Okay, enough of me. I'm delighted to hand over the microphone to Frank Annese of TAFE SA. Frank, welcome to CertMatters. It's over to you.
Hi Andrew, and hello to everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever it is in your part of the world. And thank you, Andrew, for the opportunity to talk to the people involved today. Firstly, next slide, thanks, Andrew. Like Andrew, I also would like to acknowledge traditional owners of the land on which we meet today and pay our respect to their elders, past, present and future, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal language groups as we gather here today. And I come from Goanna land here on the Adelaide Plains. Next slide, thanks, Andrew. So firstly, a little bit about Adelaide, in case you are in the part of the world that you don't know where Adelaide is. Adelaide's the capital city of the state of South Australia, population of about 1.5 million people. The state's well known for our extensive wine regions. You might have heard of the Barossa Valley, the McLaren Vale, the Coonawarra, the Adelaide Hills, the Clare Valley. There are many wine regions throughout the state. Also known for our fantastic beaches and our welcoming regional and rural communities. South Australia is also now heavily investing in the defence, health and cybersecurity industries, and part of that will be reflected in some of my presentation today. Thanks, Andrew. Next slide. Firstly, I want to talk a little bit about what is TAFE. So some of you internationally might want to know, what does TAFE mean? So technical and further education. So TAFEs have been around since the mid-70s. Traditionally, they focused on training of apprenticeships, but over many decades now, we've focused on a whole range of different course areas which align to industries in our individual states. So in South Australia, as I indicated, quite a strong focus now on defence, health and cyber. Next slide, thanks, Andrew. I want to talk a little bit about the IT qualifications that we deliver as part of our package of offerings. And with that, I'll go on to talk a little bit about how we've been able to embed certifications in some of the qualifications, and primarily in one of the qualifications that we've had a good working relationships with both Microsoft and Prodigy Learning. So the ICT training package went through an update in about middle of last year. And for those who don't know what a training package is, so in Australia, we deliver a qualification framework. We call them training packages. But a training package is basically a qualification, and in that qualification, there are a number of units of competencies, you might think of them as modules, that make up that particular qualification. And in South Australia, what we've done in consultation with our industry reference group and our course advisory group, we had a look at the update to the ICT training package, and we tried to identify which qualifications we should be offering here in South Australia. Some of that is influenced by decisions of the state government, our Training and Skills Commission here in South Australia, and industries who have been able to identify key areas that needs a change in focus, if you like. So we're focusing mainly on the Cert 3 up to the diploma level here at TAFE SA. Cert 3 is an entry-level IT. We've repurposed that qualification really to be a qualification that people working in any industry can get good IT skills. The Cert 4 level is probably our entry-level qualification for people looking for an IT career pathway. We'll talk about this qualification in a bit more detail shortly in regards to our certification space. But what we've tried to do is create a pathway from the Cert 4 to the diploma of IT. You'll notice on the right-hand side there are a number of specialisations. So as part of the ICT training package, there are a range of specifications that are available. We've chosen, in consultation with our industry reference group, to focus at the Cert 4 level on networking, programming, web and system administration competencies. And as we move forward to the diploma, we're focusing on network, cloud engineering. Those two can be bundled as a dual diploma. Programming and data management, similarly. Web, front end and back end, similarly, dual diploma. A system administration diploma and a cybersecurity diploma. Now, it's the one diploma, it's the diploma of IT, but it has different specialisations depending on the electives that you choose to package that up. And we would do that on behalf of the learner so that they have a qualification that is in industry demand in South Australia. Next slide, thanks, Andrew. So in South Australia, our IT studies program has for many years been involved with a number of academies. And the idea of including vendor certifications and vendor content in our qualifications has been a strong point with our delivery. certainly enables us to maintain up-to-date resources and up-to-date technologies as part of our delivery mix and mode of delivery. And over the past 2 years, we've been adding additional academies as the need have materialised in South Australia based on industry and state government requirements. One of the challenges that we've had in South Australia, and I suspect nationally, is that the IT industry traditionally has recruited its graduates from the university sector rather than from the vocational education and training sector. So we've been working tirelessly over the last 4 to 5 years and trying to educate the industry in regards to the skills and the attributes that a vocationally trained student could bring to their organisation in collaboration with university graduate programs and internships that they would normally and traditionally have in place. And over the last couple of years especially, we've been really pleased to see the turnaround, whereas the industry are now coming to us seeking our graduates, which basically indicates to us that now, we're really being able to engage with industry and provide the sort of skills that they're looking for. Next slide, thanks, Andrew. So that takes us on to the main part of my conversation with you this afternoon, is around this model that was proposed to us by Prodigy Learning and Microsoft about 2 or 3 years ago now. And we worked in consultation with both a couple of the other TAFEs around Australia, with Microsoft and Prodigy Learning, to package up a qualification, the Cert 4 and IT, to include a number of certifications that were embedded in the delivery across the 2 years of this traineeship program. So as well as the 20 units of competency that make up the qualification, the trainees will complete the certifications along the pathway. So by the time they exit, they are ready really for a certified Azure administrator. This has obviously got a cloud focus. So the challenge for us was to try to identify which units of competency each of the certifications aligned most closely with. It certainly is a challenge if you talk to any of the providers who are delivering qualifications. The units of competency don't map neatly to the certifications, but we did a lot of work early days, and a big thank you to Peter Doherty for assisting us in identifying the units of competency and which certifications most closely aligned. And so that once we had our delivery strategy in place, we were able to identify the students would be ready for certifications at certain points along that pathway. 2 years in now, I think we're finding the fruits of our labour. The program had gone through a couple of iterations in regards to more the delivery mode more than anything else. The time requirement, the study requirement for trainees while working in the workplace. I think that was a big learning curve for both the providers, the host employers of trainees, and ourselves, as far as the delivery mechanisms and how we best place that delivery for the trainees. But we're really happy now with the progress of the trainees as they move through. They're getting their certifications along the way, and the first graduating program for that program we're expecting in, I think it's about end of term 1 next year, I think will be the first graduating trainees out of that program. So that really gives you a bit of an understanding of the ICT training package, how we've been able to bundle up those qualifications around specialisations. One of the key things that as part of that new qualifications is around the embedding of new technologies that weren't traditionally in our delivery. So as this program demonstrates, the increased focus on cloud, which we'll take on now into our diploma level, artificial intelligence, IoT, big data, cybersecurity. These are the key technologies now we're trying to embed with all of the qualifications. And similarly, what we've done to this program, we're looking to see where and which certifications most neatly fit into the qualification mix as we deliver them. So I hope that's given you a reasonably good idea of some of the certifications and how we've been able to embed them into the qualifications. Thanks, Andrew.
Fantastic, thank you, Frank. A brilliant insight there into the extremely hard work that you put in there to obviously build up those programs in TAFE South Australia. So look, thank you for that. Frank's also a little modest. He's also the coach of the current Australian Microsoft Office Specialist Champion as well. So something else maybe for people to pick up on some of the other presentations that we have going on. But there is a championships for students to become the world or Australian champion in this case in Microsoft Office Specialist. We will come back to questions at the end. Thank you, Frank. Appreciate your time there. So for anybody who is viewing, please don't forget to add anything that you would like to ask our guests. Next to present is someone who I only had the pleasure of meeting recently, but who has been working hard to embed micro-credentials into degree programs at Deakin University. This is something relatively new for the higher education sector across the world, and Dr. Bahareh has made great strides in doing so at Deakin. Dr. Bahareh, thank you for joining us. The floor is yours.
Thanks, Andrew. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone, and good evening. And thanks for having me and giving me this opportunity to talk to you and to your audience and share my experience, what I did in terms of embedding Microsoft certification into our course, Master of Applied AI at Deakin University. To give you a bit of background about myself, I'm Bahareh Nakisa, lecturer of AI at Deakin University. I joined Deakin in 2019, and before that, I was working in industry as lead AI scientist and AI scientist. I'm also the course director of postgraduate artificial intelligence at Deakin University. Next slide, please. So what we are offering at Deakin in AI, we are offering a postgraduate level and undergraduate level in AI. So we offer short courses, graduate certificate of artificial intelligence. And at master level, we also offer Master of Applied Artificial Intelligence and Master of Applied Artificial Intelligence Professional for a student with the IT background. For the undergraduate level, we offer Bachelor of Artificial Intelligence. What we are doing in our courses, in these courses, we offer the recent advances in artificial intelligence, in deep learning, reinforcement learning, the application of computer vision and speech processing. And also we are working very hard to make sure that our students are equipped with the practical industry knowledge and skills. So I tried to demonstrate these skills. I tried to embed certificate, Microsoft certificate into our course, Master of Applied AI. So what I did, I tried to, what I learned in industry as an AI scientist and lead AI scientist, I try to bring my knowledge, my skill, whatever I learned in industry into this course. So this course is a brand new course at Deakin, and we are among the first universities in Australia that are offering artificial intelligence courses in Australia. So I had to develop a unit. So that is for part of the Master of Applied Artificial Intelligence. And what I did, I tried to bring my industry skills and knowledge into this unit. It was a good opportunity for me to bring those skills and to enable a student, to equip a student with practical industry knowledge and experience that they need, because nowadays in industry working with the vendors, they need up-to-date technologies and cloud-based services, and we have to make sure that our students are quite capable and quite skillful to maintain, to get those jobs. So what I did today, I'm going to share with you about my pathway. If you go to next slide, I'm going to share my pathway about how I embed one Microsoft certificate into one unit, and what I did in terms of embedding Azure AI Fundamental in our course in Master of Applied Artificial Intelligence. One of the units that I had to develop from scratch was about designing, developing, and deploying AI solutions and integrate them into different applications. In terms of designing and developing those AI solutions, I borrowed the techniques and technologies that are available on Azure that I learned from industry, and then try to teach a student how they can build their own AI techniques from scratch using Python, or through the Azure services that are available, through the Azure ML Studio that is available, and student how they can design and build their own AI solution and deploy it on Azure. Moreover, we try to cover most of the cognitive services that are available on Azure. For example, computer vision and custom vision. As an example of using these applications, these Azure services, I asked my student to develop an application using computer vision and custom vision services on Azure to detect age, gender, and emotion. So a student developed an application using through their camera that can capture their face, and they can detect the age, gender, and emotion of the detected face. So students learn how to work with those Azure services, and then learned how to work and build an intelligent system. So essentially, I designed and developed a curriculum based on Azure Cognitive Services. After designing the unit, I met Microsoft people. I talked to them about this development, about this new unit that I have designed at Deakin, and then I shared the course map with them, and then had a discussion. We went through different Microsoft certificate, that which one can be aligned with this course. And Azure AI Fundamental was the good start for us to start working on embedding the certificate and make sure that student can achieve this certificate. But the student were not ever of the difficulty level of the exam. So we run the workshop with the Microsoft trainer that was organized by Microsoft. And in 2 hours workshop, the Microsoft trainer went through the process of how they can sit for the certificate, what are the requirements to grab this certificate, and the difficulty level of the AI 900 exam. And then after the workshop, interestingly, students get to know how to sit for this certificate. And then I got a good number of message and email from my students that they are now ready to book a time and sit for this certificate. And within a week, we had a good number of students who grabbed this certificate, and it shows and demonstrates this capability from our course that students are now skillful, and they have learned whatever we have teach them in this unit, and they have learned the Azure services properly. So apart from this embedding, there is also a program in Microsoft which is called Microsoft Learn for Educator, and our school is part of this program. So what they are doing in Microsoft Learn for Educators, they are offering the curriculum to educators and teach and train them to embed those certificates, different Microsoft certificate into their unit. And if they need to design or redevelop their curriculum and target different certification, Microsoft Learn for Educator can help them. And our school is part of this program to embed more and more certificate, Azure certificate into our courses. That's all from me, and thanks, Andrew.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Bahareh. Some very useful information and takeaways for anyone looking at the new Microsoft Certified Fundamental certifications in Azure. So thank you for taking the time to present with us this afternoon. Now to hand over to our final speaker, Sally Browner, CEO of Goanna Education, who will offer a more commercial view as to the value of industry certifications. Thank you for joining us, Sally. Over to you.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you very much for having me, everybody. I'm going to, as Andrew said, bring I guess a slightly different perspective. So you've heard from the TAFE sector, from Frank, and you've heard from Bahareh in the higher ed sector. We're kind of, Goanna Education is a relative newcomer to the space, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about one of the projects we've been working on with the Digital Skills Organisation and Prodigy, the Train 100 Data Analyst Pilot Project. So if we could just go to the next slide. So just to give you a bit of background on Goanna, there's a couple of different parts of the business. So Goanna is an Indigenous owned organisation. It was started 4 years ago by a Gamilaraay man called Corey Brown, and it has been working in hardware, software solutions, recruitment, labour hire, and Corey had a dream to expand it to education. Goanna Education has been going for almost 12 months. We started with an AWS program. We also received funding from the Digital Skills Organisation, which is the project I'm about to talk about. And we've been working on a variety of other projects as well. We are also applying to become an RTO, so we will be working in a similar space to Frank, but with, I guess, an attempt to do a few things a little bit differently. So we could go to the next slide, please. Just going to cough. Bear with me for 2 seconds. Our mission is to drive diversity in the tech sector by innovative education solutions. So, and I'll just, jump to the next slide if I can as well, Andrew. To give you an idea, I guess, of what we're trying to do differently, and I think, to be honest, you're probably starting to see this from the education sector across Australia more broadly. I think Frank has mentioned it. I think, Deakin is doing something similar, but I think the writing's been on the wall, and I think this is the future really, and this is what we're trying to do as well, is do a lot of industry consultation up front, embed industry certifications, look at running programs. My background is very much in the bootcamp and intensive education space. So rather than running things in a very sort of linear fashion, you embed enterprise skills, mentoring, career support, and you run the program incredibly intensively. So ideally, we would look to run a 3 to 6 month intensive that includes a Cert 3, a Cert 4, a diploma. And then you're looking also for jobs and internships. So what we do is we also provide end-to-end support. So we help recruit, we recruit the students, we train them, and then we also support them into careers. We have a very strong alumni network. A big piece of that puzzle is that deep engagement with industry. So, and the opportunity also exists because we have 2 parts of the business to leverage the recruitment and the labour hire side of the business with Goanna Solutions. The Indigenous ownership makes us, I think, particularly unique. There's a big focus, particularly in the government sector, on Indigenous procurement. So there's lots of opportunities around working with various government departments and providing employees within the tech sector for them. And look, because we're small and we have to be agile, we have to innovate constantly and look at that mix of accredited and non-accredited and continuously iterate and improve. There is absolutely we almost don't have time to sleep. So next slide, please, Andrew. Just to give you an idea of the program that we were successful in winning funding from the Digital Skills Organisation, what we were asked to do as part of the RFP was we were asked to come up with an innovative training program to generate junior data analysts. And we had a turnaround time of less than 6 weeks. It had to be completed obviously very quickly. We needed to have industry involved in the curriculum. It could be accredited or non-accredited. We had to market it, build the program, run the program, and place the candidates in employment. So this was, the RFP came out last October. They decided and announced the winners in December last year, and Goanna worked with Prodigy and a couple of other industry partners to come up with the program that we put forward, which was, we proposed 2 cohorts, which was a mature cohort and another which was an Indigenous cohort. And by mature, I mean students aged 25 and above, which may not sound that mature, but depends what part of education you come from. It actually ended up morphing into 3 cohorts, and the reason for that, I don't know if I have time to go into it, but what we found very much when we were recruiting our Indigenous candidates was that we found a lot of people within Indigenous communities who were already working really wanted to take part in the program because there's a big focus around data sovereignty. And so we ended up iterating to run a part-time program as well, working with empowered communities. We did a huge amount of industry consultation around what was going to be the best certifications to put in to the program to make these people as employable as possible at the end of it. We have gone with a non-accredited design just because of the pace, but we would like to work towards looking something similar, as Frank was talking about at the beginning, is looking to embed some of this material in an accredited program moving forward. We interviewed and assessed the students prior to enrolment. We did sort of numeracy assessments and some psychometric testing as well. We also did, part of the innovation was we're very interested in the bootcamp model and cognitive load theory and how we can start to look at real-time interventions in bootcamp model to help improve learning outcomes. So actually all of our mature cohort are wearing Fitbits. And we're collecting data on heart rate, exercise and sleep. We're looking at cognitive load via surveys and wellbeing, and also our learning management system, with a view to seeing if we can actually do some real-time interventions moving forward. So we wanted to be what we were professing to teach in terms of analytics. So that's the vision moving forward. Next slide, please, Andrew. So how did that look? Just to give you an idea of how many organisations, and this is only the top line of organisations, but I think it's relevant to talk about. Accenture have been a big partner of ours, but we also talked to the smaller end of town, like Ingrity, who's another fantastic data analytics company that we work with. We've talked to Deloitte, Kraft Heinz, various government organisations. We obviously work with Prodigy Learning, ThoughtWorks, other smaller analytics companies, and also recruitment companies. And the idea was to go and, as I said before, who is going to hire these people and what is going to make them as employable as possible. And the Microsoft suite, in terms of building people from beginners to a point that they're employable, there really isn't any competitor in the marketplace that offers as good a transition, I guess. So when we proposed a Microsoft program that had 4 different certifications in it, including a number of analytics, but also cloud. And I think that the cloud skills has come through a lot as being a big area. Everybody kind of came back with a very strong endorsement. So we built the program. We've used geometrics. We've also used industry case studies. We've also embedded enterprise skills. And for example was we had over 100 applications for the mature cohort and we've accepted 31. I think we're going to have 26 finish because 4 or 5 got jobs straight after they did their Excel component. And we're anticipating that most of them have already been interviewed for jobs already, and we've had quite a few offers for employment already. So I think the proof is in the employment statistics. So next slide, please, Andrew. Again, this is a lot of information. I look at this and I think, gosh, I probably should take a leaf out of my own educational learning and make a less complex slide. But so just to give you an idea, we broke it down into 3 sprints. So the courses were largely 4 to 7 weeks at the beginning, which was Excel, and we did the Excel expert certificate. Second sprint was we did Python and databases. So they did a couple of weeks of Python and they did the MTA Introduction to Python Cert. And we also did database fundamentals and SQL, and they did the MTA database fundamentals exam. And then sprint 3 has been Power BI and the Azure fundamentals, and they've done the Azure data fundamentals, or the Indigenous cohort are probably going to do the Azure fundamentals certificate. So the 2 cohorts haven't been run at the same time. The Indigenous cohort is running a little bit behind the mature cohort that's just about to finish. And we've had a number of, as I said, like all of the assessments have been either based around the certificates or they've been based around industry case studies that have been developed with industry. And again, to give you an idea, we've got, for example, Accenture coming in to teach their soft skills component of the Indigenous cohort, and we have guest speakers coming in from a variety of different industry partners to talk every week or every second week. So if you can go to the next slide, Andrew. Just a couple of the hurdles to give people an idea if you're thinking about going into this space. Getting industry on board before you commence is actually quite hard, particularly trying to lock them in to ask them to employ people at the end. One person's data analyst. So the whole idea was, can you produce a junior data analyst? If you ask one organisation what a data analyst is and you ask another organisation, they'll give you two different answers. So that makes actually devising a single curriculum for which you have a single assessment at the end quite complex. Again, one of the issues we ran into running a non-accredited program is that, particularly for the Indigenous cohort, they can't access various types of government funding like AB study. We also needed more time with the Indigenous cohort. A lot of it's very much a community recommendation, and that takes time to establish that trust and that rapport. And that's not something you just go out and start marketing on social media and expect to draw in those crowds quickly. Finding trainers that are industry focused enough and have strong teaching skills is also a challenge. And there's also some challenges around changing your Microsoft certifications. Some of the learnings, you need to differentiate with industry. The idea of juniors or graduates is very familiar, and I think Frank alluded to it. There has been a strong focus in industry on hiring from computer science degrees or university degrees, and I think that's changing. There's also a massive opportunity that's sort of has been a little bit overlooked in industry is the mature candidates that have got life skills and have got other qualifications, and all they need is a bit of reskilling or upskilling. And they're amazing supercharged employees. I also think that, and again, going back to what Frank said, that different perception of vocational programs in industry, I think that is changing, and I think it needs to change even further. And I'd love to see vocational programs seen as programs for everybody, not just for people straight out of high school. And I think that is also that diversification of perception of vocational programs is really key. And also the other thing is about working with industry to establish appropriate work environments. You can train a fantastic person that is ready for work, but the work environment also needs to be ready for them. And building new models of what an apprentice looks like in IT. People are talking about it a lot. I still don't think we've cracked it in Australia, and I'm really looking forward to hopefully being a part of that solution. And again, collaborating across the country. The state-centric model we have is a little bit is hampering innovation, and it was great to hear Frank saying that you actually worked with TAFEs across the country, because I think that's a really key component. I think the model that we have is scalable, and particularly if it's delivered virtually. So that's, I think, everything. I think I was going to give you a little bit of a rundown of some of the other things we're doing, but I'm not sure if I'm out of time.
You have a couple of minutes, Sally, go on.
Okay, all right, we're actually about to launch a bootcamp version of the Diploma of IT, and we're doing that together with the Australian Computer Society. So we're actually going to do a front-end web and cloud development program. Once again, I think one of the questions I've had a lot is where do you see demand? And those cloud skills, everybody is asking for those. We're working with UST Global and doing a non-accredited Java and JavaScript web development bootcamp with them. We're also working and applying to be on various digital skills panels, and we're working with the Queensland government to build their industry panel. We're applying to be an RTO. There's lots of opportunities in Western Sydney, and we're also looking at an infrastructure and security bootcamp in the non-accredited space using Microsoft certifications. So just an update on sort of things that we're working on. So thank you very much for having me, and very happy to take some questions.
Well, thank you, Sally. Thank you so much for joining us. I think everyone watching will agree that we've had three fantastic speakers this afternoon, and I'm delighted that you've all been able to share your perspectives with us. We have had some questions come in, so I'm going to just grab a list of these now and just ask away. So I'm going to loop all the way back to our first presenter, Frank, if that's okay. A question that I have here is, how can you scale what you are doing with certifications within TAFE South Australia, and how can other TAFEs learn from your experiences and replicate success?
Okay, good question. So one of the learnings we had early days was ensuring that all our delivery and COVID really exacerbated this last year for us. All our resources now are being delivered via virtual classrooms. So we use Blackboard Collaborate as a virtual classroom space. So enabling that virtual delivery has enabled us to deliver the qualifications really across the state. Trainees and students now are, we could have a student sitting in Ceduna or in Port Pirie. Some of our regional communities are involved in the program. That enables us to broaden the delivery and the scale of the program. The qualifications, embedding more certifications, and this is one of the challenges in talking with industry. When you start talking to an industry partner, you start talking about a certification and what they need in their particular workplace, and you'll find they're wanting exceptionally large skill sets from someone who's just starting out. So making sure that the appropriate certification is aligned to the qualification level that we're talking at. So if we think about our Microsoft traineeship program, it's a 2-year program. We had to ensure that the certifications were at the level 4 to make sure that those students were going to be successful, but with a pathway to further certifications post that qualification. And that's really the scalability, then allowing that person to move through in their career pathway within the IT program. I'm hoping that addresses the question.
That's perfect. Thank you, Frank. There's another question here for you while you have the mic. But actually, this one probably I might pose to all of our guest presenters. And that question is, you mentioned, Frank, the industry are coming to TAFE South Australia looking for their graduates. Do you think Microsoft certifications you've embedded have given them an edge?
Oh, absolutely. When we talk to our students and our trainees, we say we teach once, but we award twice. So they get their qualification, but they also walk out with certifications. And if you talk to industry, ICT industry in particular, they understand certifications. They don't necessarily understand qualifications. And so a trainee or a student who just finishes Cert 4 in IT goes to an employer competing with a student who's also got a range of certifications. I think the students with the certification is going to have their front foot in the door.
Fantastic. And Dr. Bahareh, the same kind of question, but obviously a different setting. The kind of these vendor certifications, as I mentioned earlier, are relatively new to the higher ed space. But do you see that students are finding they're getting an advantage or gaining an advantage or an edge as they enter the workforce by adding these certifications to their core program?
Absolutely, Andrew, because, nowadays, as Frank said, industry, they need more certification. They need quite a skill set from students. I know that, for example, there are a couple of industries who are working with cloud services, and they need students, they need employees who are skillful in these areas. And in university, in higher education, sometimes we go to the abstract. So sometimes we go to the level of the depth of the algorithm, for example, in the data science, in artificial intelligence, and then, but the student doesn't have this opportunity to learn the new technologies, and then how to work with them, how they can integrate, how they can build an application using those new technologies. They are only aware of how they can develop their own algorithm, but they are not aware of the higher level, that how they can integrate and build a real-time, real-world application. So these sort of certifications, it's demonstrating their skill set and their capabilities, that they are aware of these sort of skills that are essential for the market, for industries, and this industry would rely on those certificates. So I do remember that around a couple of years ago, I had a discussion with the companies like Deloitte, and they were so interested in having the employees who are skillful in Azure, in Amazon. But they need this sort of skill, and the students in university, they need more up-to-date skill. They need more to learn more up-to-date services, and going through those certificates, going through those understanding would really increase their employability.
Perfect. Thank you, Bahareh. And Sally, I'm going to ask it in a slightly different way for you. You mentioned some of the early success that some of your students and candidates had regards the Excel certification. But with those certifications, why was it that you chose a pathway with Microsoft?
Again, if you're looking to build a data analyst in hours at 18 to 21 weeks, there are very few other, I guess, groups of certifications that you could go with. In fact, I don't know any others really that you could work from what is a big, arguably where people often start, up to way more sophisticated, and be able to package that in a way that is well graduated across that period of time. And to go to the point, I think it's really interesting. When we did the industry consultation, we had a lot of companies come back because everybody goes, oh, Python, oh, this, oh. And a lot of companies came back and said to us, look, what we need is really good Excel skills. We need somebody that's got really strong Excel skills. And if they've got SQL as well as Excel and a bit of cloud, we'd be ecstatic. And people often underestimate, or let me say this again, people often overestimate their Excel skills. But if you've gone and done the Microsoft Expert Excel exam, it really sets a level, and industry goes, aha, I really get what your skill level is there. You've really got a solid understanding. You know, this isn't just somebody that's using, you know, add, subtract, multiply and divide. This is somebody that really knows what they're doing. And I to also, again, on the point of, I had a conversation with another big consulting firm the other day, and we mentioned that we were doing the Azure Fundamentals Cert. And they said, oh, that's fantastic. We are pretty much making that a prerequisite for anyone we hire across the entire organisation. So regardless of even whether they're working in the tech field, they're looking at that as a prerequisite for every single employee. So industry is definitely asking for these certifications. And yeah, I mean, there wasn't any other provider that we could go with that was really going to offer us that same scope in a cohesive fashion.
Thank you, Sally. Thank you to all of you. It's you know, it's been a fantastic session. Look, I hope there's plenty that everybody can take away there. I think there's some really good advice and some really good insight there to the different certification programs. So thank you, Frank. Thank you, Bahar. Thank you, Sally, for presenting. A reminder before we wrap up that this is the first of a series of online sessions that we are hosting throughout June. So do visit www.CertMatters.com to sign up for further sessions, including the must not miss session with Anthony Salcito, Vice President of Education at Microsoft. Or sign up online to view any session on demand. Today's recording will be live on the CertMatters website for you by the end of this week. If you have any questions about anything that you've seen or heard this afternoon, if you would like to be connected to any of our presenters, or if you would like to talk to us about embedding any of the industry certifications that we offer, then do contact us via any of the methods on the screen now. And I'll pause while you can grab some of those details. Lastly, before we close, a final thank you to our headline sponsor, Microsoft, and to our partners and speakers who will be presenting in the coming weeks. And of course, to our presenters today, Frank Annese of TAFE SA, Dr. Bahareh Nakisa of Deakin University, and Sally Browner of Goanna Education. Thank you all. We are very, very grateful for you taking the time this afternoon. And final thanks go to all of you who have joined us this afternoon. I hope that you found this session as inspirational as I did. We appreciate you taking the time out to hear from our guests and to attend CertMatters.Live 2021. Thank you and enjoy the rest of your afternoons.